History Spotlight, brought to you by HEC Media and the Missouri Historical Society.
Hello, I'm Dr. Jody Sowell, president of the Missouri Historical Society in St. Louis, and this is History Spotlight. Charles Lindbergh made history with a daring solo flight across the Atlantic in 1927, leading to one of the biggest celebrations that St. Louis has ever seen. Public historian Adam Clappy shares how this event left an indelible mark on both Lindbergh and the River City.
When St. Louisans opened their newspapers on the evening of Saturday, May 21st, 1927, they must have felt like their world just got a little smaller. What screamed at them from the headlines that evening was that Charles Lindbergh had just completed a solo flight across the Atlantic Ocean, a feat that many people thought so difficult as to essentially be impossible. But Lindbergh had done it. He had shown that aviation could be used to bring different parts of the globe a little bit closer together. The world celebrated, but perhaps no city celebrated Lindbergh's incredible feat quite like St. Louis. You see, Lindbergh had deep ties to the River City. He had barnstormed in and around St. Louis for several years, showing off some of the amazing capabilities of aircraft, sometimes for people that had never even seen a plane before. He had also flown a dangerous airmail route between St. Louis and Chicago for some time, linking the two biggest cities in the region through the air. In other words, any St. Louisan that had ever had any interest in airplanes was probably familiar with Lindbergh. That's how he came into contact with the St. Louis businessmen who financed his flight, and that's why he named his famous airplane the Spirit of St. Louis. On June 18, 1927, about a month after his historic flight, Lindbergh returned to St. Louis for the first time. In response, the city of St. Louis threw one of the biggest celebrations this city has ever seen in honor of Lindbergh. That day, over 500,000 people crowded onto the streets of St. Louis to witness a parade in Lindbergh's honor and to see the man himself. He also attended several banquets and other events that day, but everywhere he went, he was toasted, celebrated, and honored. The next day, Lindbergh was scheduled to give a speech on Art Hill, and over 100,000 St. Louisans jammed into Forest Park to hear him speak. But before he spoke, he flew over the crowd in his famous plane, dipping his wings in gratitude for all the city had done for him. When he landed, he spoke to them about the importance of aviation and how St. Louis could take a leading role in the aviation industry. He then laid a wreath at the foot of the statue of St. Louis at the top of Art Hill to show his thanks. And he meant it. These St. Louis celebrations were special to him. Lindbergh had had parades thrown in his honor for a month, toasted in London and Paris and Washington and New York. But he told the papers that the St. Louis crowds were, quote, the most enthusiastic I have seen since Paris. It was 100% wonderful, end quote. I'm sure the crowds thought the same.
To learn more about the Missouri Historical Society, visit mohistory.org.